Good afternoon, everyone. This is Ed DeVeaux. I'm president of the New Jersey Cannabis Association. Welcome to another segment of Lunch and Learn. I want to thank you all. I want to welcome you. I want to thank our sponsors, Burton Trent Public Affairs, Curaleaf, Dutchie, Financial Resources Federal Credit Union, Puffin Entrepreneurs and Investors, Saks LLP, the Sheet Metal Workers, Local 19. I want to thank Sprague Energy, Syska Hennessy Group, the UFCW, Locals 360 and 152. And today we have a special segment sponsor, that is Crowdfunding New Jersey. Crowdfunding New Jersey is a financial resources company. I want to thank Crowdfunding for sponsoring today's segment of Lunch and Learn. So everyone, I'm not going to belabor too much. I want to welcome our guest and allow him to actually get right into this. No stranger to us, but before Jeff, you jump on, again, I just want to personally thank you for taking the time to join us. And certainly, I want to thank my friends at Killer Pies in Asbury Park. This is a modern mod pizza establishment. You will love the food here. I'll talk more about the food later. But Jeff, I want to thank you so much once again, and I'll turn it over to you.
Great, thanks Ed, and thanks to you and your membership. I'll just say this, that today is technically a day off for me. There's not many organizations that I would take time off of a day off to come speak to, but yours is one of them. I wanted to thank you and everybody who is a part of this organization for the assistance, the feedback, whether good or bad, that you provided to the CRC, since we've started, and even before then. I remember meeting with you and Scott, way back when I first started at the Department of Health over 4 years ago now. So, just wanted to thank you and everything that the CannaBusiness Association has done to really make sure that New Jersey's market is going to be set up to be as successful as it can. Absolutely. So I'll just start off, by saying I'll share some good news, and I'm sure it comes as no surprise to anybody, but the good news is that the market is open. We do have legal sales in New Jersey for the first time, in the state's history since cannabis prohibition started. It was certainly a monumental undertaking to get that done. We did it in a little over 12 months from the time the CRC was seated and began our work. Some other things that we're really proud of that got us there is really adopting, some of the most cutting edge regulations when it comes to the cannabis industry in the country. And actually, as some of our neighboring states are issuing their own rules, we're finding that they sometimes mirror things that we had in our rules, which is good. So, what's the phrase? Copying is the greatest form of flattery. So anyway, we did that in 4 months from inception, and then that was in August of 2021, and then in December of 2021 we actually started accepting applications, and we are one of the fastest states to new business applications in the history of any states that have done this. And as far as getting legal sales started, we're about on par with states like Colorado, California, Montana, New Mexico, New Mexico. Or rather Michigan. I'm sorry, I'm a little scatterbrained today. I'm also having a lunch and learn at my house. I have my 2 daughters home with me now. Their last day of school was today, so I'm talking and trying to watch them, make sure they don't choke or anything. So apologies if I'm a little scattered. But I want to focus in on that licensing system and licensing process here and explain it a little bit. And I would encourage everybody who hasn't done so to watch the 2 informational webinars that are on our website. There was one that was hosted originally in October of 2021, and then there was one that was hosted closer, I believe in November, the pre-application webinar itself, where we walk through our rules, we walk through the licensing process, and we walk through details like the priority designation and how our licensing process works. So I encourage everybody to read that. I encourage everybody to really spend a lot of time reading the Notice of Application Acceptance, which is really the guiding document for how we're accepting, reviewing, processing, and issuing licenses, and all the resources on our website. Tony Ed Blake, who's our Director of Communications, and Wesley McWhite, who's our Director of our Office of Diversity and Inclusion, as well as Chris Riggs and our Counsel's Office have done a tremendous job putting resources on our webpage for businesses to look at and consult as they move through the application process. But so on the application process itself, it's sort of complex, but it's really simple at its heart. And here's how it works. Really, we have priority designations, and then so as applications come in, they're sorted by priority designation, but they're also sorted by the time they're submitted. And so, I want to take a step back and just explain a little bit about, kind of how we landed on this particular model. When you think about different ways that states can issue licenses or permits, you really see several different ways of doing it. What we did under medical is a request for applications where you accept a number of applications, they all get scored. You have a limited number of licenses or permits. The highest scores move forward in that process. So we certainly see that. That's what we came from under the Department of Health. I think anybody who went through the 2019 RFA would agree that that's probably not the ideal way to issue licenses, especially as we're talking about a new recreational industry, where we really want to see this market set up in accordance with the demand that New Jersey has. Then other options include a lottery. You see a lot of states doing a lottery where applicants are just vetted to make sure they have the minimum requirements, and then they're put into a pool, and then a lottery, random lottery is run, and whoever comes out of that lottery, good for them. So that's another model. And then you see in recreational states, you see a lot of states, really the predominant model for issuing licenses is more of rolling applications, where you open up applications, you accept them and review them and issue them in accordance when the time they come in. So there's some complexities related to New Jersey's laws that I want to cover, and then also cover some of our own goals at the CRC that really led us to design the system that we have. So first, in the law itself, we have and I'll say it's a puzzle really when it comes to the what I'll term them set-asides, or the goals that the law requires us to stick to as far as the issuance of licenses. So when we talk about the types of licenses, we have conditional and annual. Those are kind of the overarching types of licenses, and conditional is a temporary license that is really just step one to get to that annual license. But per the statute, people can also apply directly for that annual license. Pretty much every other state that has a conditional license or provisional license requires every applicant to go through that provisional or conditional phase before they get to that annual phase. Here, our law, in fact, required us to set up two pathways, one going the conditional route and one going the annual route from the get-go. And then we are required to issue 35% of all licenses to conditional licensees. Additionally, under conditional and annual, there are micro business licenses and standard business licenses. And again, we have set-asides in each for overall issuance of micro businesses, and then issuances of micro businesses within each class of license. So we have set-asides for conditionals, we have set-asides for micro businesses, and then finally we have set-asides for minority, women, and disabled veteran-owned businesses. And those are across the board in conditional. It's just overall licensure. And so that, again, that's within conditional, within annual, within micro business, within the whole gamut. We have to hit those targets. And so, we were kind of left with, how do we design a system where we can hit all these targets, make sure we make good on what the law requires us to do, while also, really taking the best practices from other states and setting up these markets, which is to, follow more of a rolling application system where, it's less so about scoring highly in an RFA or, lucking out in a lottery, and more so about, just meeting minimum standards in an application and then moving forward. Additionally, our core value in everything we do is equity. And so, we heard from advocates that they wanted, because the law does not have a social equity business designation. We have set aside in the law for minority-owned, women-owned, disabled, veteran-owned, and for conditional licenses. And conditional licenses are limited by income as far as eligibility. But there is no social equity business designation. There's impact zones, and again, I didn't cover those, but there are set-aside requirements for impact zone businesses as well. On the equity front, it was very important to us that we create a social equity business designation, one that really relied on two things. Number one, a place-based qualifier. Economically disadvantaged areas is what was created in rules. So those are zip codes throughout the state that have lower than average median household income, higher levels of uninsurance. It was important to us to pick a couple factors that were transparent. Both of the factors that we chose are available in census data so that anybody can go through and recreate the analysis that we did. When we talk about impact zones, there's a lot of data that goes into that analysis that is in fact not directly available to the public that we were able to use with, get in concert with other state agencies. But so when it came to economically disadvantaged areas, we wanted to pick some qualifiers that, were very transparent, data that was available to the, anybody who wants it, basically. And then secondly, providing opportunities under that social equity business designation for people with past cannabis convictions. That was critical to us, and that's why we created the social equity business designation. And so we had to kind of create the system that hit all these set-asides, achieved our equity goals, and also, followed best practice at least what we think is best practice when it comes to licensing in cannabis. And I think, the last time I was on this, this Lunch and Learn or a previous event, one of the things that I've emphasized from the get-go is that we want people to prove themselves in the market, not on our application process. So we wanted to set up a process where people can move through and get into the market and get going. Now that said, we always knew that the initial phase was going to be just a mad rush as far as applications, and that's what we've seen. I think we've received over 1,100 applications at this point, which is why in the pre-application webinar, in statements we've made at meetings, we've emphasized that for conditional licenses, our target is to get to 90 days. We're not there on all of them. We're close. We're beating it on some. We're close on others. It really depends on that priority level. But also that, for annual licenses, it's going to be a little bit of a longer process. And one part of that is just the initial influx of applications that we got. And then the other is just the nature of the annual review process is just a longer process overall. And one of the things I cover in the pre-application webinar is how those differ. So the review process for a conditional application, we assign a priority based on what they say on their application. We verify they have the information needed in that application. They then get reviewed for completeness to ensure they have everything they need. Then they get scored. Then there's just an initial, kind of qualification limitation review to make sure the application and the applicant are compliant with our regs when it comes to ownership and other factors. And then it goes to the board for action. And then, if approved by the board, they get a license. When it comes to annual, all those things happen, but before going to the board, they then move into a more in-depth investigation stage. So once they're scored, if they pass scoring, if they pass completeness, if an applicant passes, then they move into a background investigation, including probity for financial sources and others. And there, we're really looking to verify that what's on the application is 100% truthful, that there aren't hidden owners, that there aren't, hidden entities or other people controlling the applicant that we're unaware of. Because again, we're really trying to ensure that people have, people who genuinely qualify as social equity businesses, as diversely owned businesses, as impact zone businesses, have a leg up in this market. And so we want to make sure that those applicants are who they say they are. So with the annual applications, it's going to take longer to move through that process, and differs from, anyone who's gone through our RFA process. There, after scoring, the awards are issued, and then there's an investigation. Criminal history, background checks, financial investigation. We've put that before the board meeting so that once an application is ready to go to the board, it's ready. And, really, if it gets approved by the board, that applicant knows that as long as they can build out their facility, they're good to go, as long as it comes to us. And that's really similar to how a lot of other states do it. I note Massachusetts in particular, when they're talking, and they do have a provisional license that people go through, but their license issuance really comes at the end of the process, just like ours does. And the board action as well comes towards the end of that process. So, I know that certainly, there are some folks who have been waiting, particularly in that annual category, but I just wanted to assure everyone that we will get there. In fact, we're going to be going, not that we haven't been, but, we're going especially all hands on deck on application review through the summer. I'm sure I myself will be reviewing applications because we want to make sure we get through as many as we can and try to clear the deck here, and at least get every applicant one review. I do want to note that, one of the things we're seeing that is taking up a fair amount of time is that people are definitely rushing to submit applications. And we're noticing a lot of mistakes as far as, not reading the materials on our website, not submitting what you need to submit to get the priority designation that you note. So here's one example. If you are qualified as a diversely owned business, you need the certification from the Department of the Treasury. You need to have your minority-owned business certification, your women-owned business certification, or your diversely owned business certification. You need to have that in hand when you submit. There are a lot of people who have submitted and said, well, I'm going to get it, I'm in process, and that's not good enough. We want those in hand when you apply. And so then what we're having to do is then kick those back, and they'll resubmit, and then we review them again. Similarly, we've seen a lot with the social equity businesses where there's two pieces to the submission to proving. So there's an attestation, which is on our website, and then there's also the proof behind the attestation. And on that attestation, at the end, it notes the different documents that we'd be looking for when it comes to proof. So it's very important to take your time with the application, make sure it's complete, make sure you've gotten everything in there that you need, and that everything is filled out properly. Because again, we have not set any caps on licenses statewide. Conditionals, we've obviously issued a fair amount of those. I think we've issued 148 at this point. And we'll continue to issue conditional licenses. Conditional licenses are step one for many to get into the market. Really the opportunity is there. And, the benefit to this system versus others is that you can be assured that if you have all your ducks in a row, if your application is complete, if you've done what you need to do as far as the scored sections, and the scored sections are pass fail even of themselves, and you're compliant with the rules, that at the end of that there is light at the end of that tunnel. You will, if you meet all those qualifications, you've done everything you need to do, then you're going to get recommended for a license. And that's different from if we did an RFA where we say 100 licenses, then you'd have 100 people who are happy, 100, maybe 1,000 people who aren't, or, a lottery where really, it's all left up to chance. And, I think, again, I think at least that the system that we're following is the best possible solution given what's in the statute and given the requirements of the law, and our own goals. I will note that, we do intend to tweak it over time. So we are a data-driven organization. We have an Office of Data and Business Analytics. We're constantly looking at data when it comes to applicants, when it comes to license holders. And actually at our next meeting on, I think it's June 23rd, I'll be providing a data update on the license holders we have so far. Things like race, ethnicity, equity status. That's something we're committed to releasing publicly on a periodic basis. And in fact, we'll be doing quarterly as we move through this. We're also looking at metrics internally to make sure that when it comes to license review, that we're doing everything we can to review things in a timely manner. So Again, there's upsides and downsides to every licensing framework. Every state that launches has an initial, rush of applications. I honestly thought we would get more than we did. So I feel kind of fortunate that we're only at 1,100. I think it was Missouri did an RFA for medical and they got like 1,200 applications. There are certainly other states that have gotten thousands. So, I think the number of applications we've gotten is manageable. We will get through them. I know, probably for folks who have those annual applications, they're getting antsy, but know that we're working through applications and we're going to get there.
Jeff, thank you so much for that background. I think it's important for our membership and our guests to get a sense of what the process is. So thank you for covering that. I know you may have to take a brief intermission, and so
yeah, I gotta put my youngest down for a nap. So
okay. So do you want to take a question now, or do you want to?
Yeah, let's do one question because it looks like she's still eating. So I'll do one question and then we'll pause.
So let's go. Unless you want to pull one from there, I think from the membership perspective and something that I've been hearing. So we know that there's a process in place, and I think what comes to mind is if I'm a female minority applicant from December and I haven't heard anything, and yet we just started approving retail. The question is, okay, so where did I fall? What happened? How did I fall off of the apparently fall off of that priority chart? So if you want to just address that briefly, because again, we know it's a process and people need to understand that there's a lot going on, but what happens? I'm December, you're approving stuff from March. What happens in that case?
Yeah, so, the way the priority works is that if you're a 1A, which is a conditional social equity micro business, if you submit on March 15th and there's we'll just say a 4A, okay? And 4A is, an applicant who doesn't qualify for anything but has bonus points for a collective bargaining agreement or a project labor agreement or for New Jersey residency. It's very possible and probable at this point that a March 15th applicant will have come in at the end of that 1A category that's going to get reviewed before that 4A. Again, the first sort is by priority level. And so when people submit, they don't come in at the very end of the list, they come in at the end of their priority level. And within each priority level, it's sorted by time. And this is, we're doing this because, again, a couple reasons. Number one, for equity, we want to make sure that folks who have, paid the biggest price from the war on drugs have the first into this market. And obviously the ATCs are, have been able to convert, the medical operators have been able to convert, and that's written into law. That's something that had to happen. We had no flexibility there, but, beyond that, as it comes to new businesses, the social equity business designation is our highest overall priority. I will say this, we're seeing the vast majority of applications come into the diversely owned business category and diversely owned business conditional category specifically. I don't have the exact number, but I want to say we have like 250 applications in that category right now. And we're seeing a lot in both micro business and annual there. And so, if you're in 2B, which is annual, and we're getting a ton of 2As, then we got to get through the 2As before we get to all the 2Bs. I would say that, we have staff monitoring our licensing inbox consistently. So, if you have a question about your application, shoot a note there, and someone will get back to you. And, just if you're looking for a quick status update to make sure it's still pending, send to that inbox and someone will get back to you. I understand, people are obviously very anxious to get into this market, get their applications back. We have, I think we're up to 60 staff members now and, 1,100 applications received. So, just know that we're working through this as quickly as we can. The the priority designation and that system works the way that it does, and we will get through all the applications.
Great, thanks, Jeff. So I know you're going to take an intermission.
I'm going to take a 5-minute break, and then I'll be back for more questions here.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Jeff. So everyone, once again, Ed DeVeaux, President of the New Jersey CannaBusiness Association. Thank you so much for being with us this afternoon. And again, in his absence, I want to thank Jeff for taking time out. And when he comes back, we'll certainly get to more questions. In the meantime, I just want to share, again, I'm in Asbury Park. I'm at 649 Madison Avenue at my good friend Andrew's restaurant, Killer Pies. I'm telling you, great pizza here. And the garlic knots are not just garlic knots, they actually have stuffed garlic knots. So if you're in Asbury, in the vicinity, you got to hit Killer Pies. I also want to thank today's sponsors. Once again, Burton, Trent Public Affairs, Curaleaf. I want to thank Dutchie, Financial Resources Federal Credit Union, Puffin Entrepreneurs and Investors, Saks LLP, the Sheet Metal Workers, Local 19, Sprague Energy, our energy partner. I want to thank the Syska Hennessy Engineering Group, the UFCW, Locals 360 and 152, and I also want to thank today's segment sponsor, Crowdfunding New Jersey, a financial resources company. I want to thank them and appreciate they're here. And Chris Frey, thank you for being with us today. And just want to note that Crowdfunding New Jersey is New Jersey's only authorized and registered equity crowdfunding portal. So again, Crowdfunding New Jersey, thanks so much. I want to just take a couple of minutes and do some thank yous while we wait for Jeff to return. Last Friday, June 3rd, I had the pleasure, the honor of attending and being recognized at the Garden State Equality's Equality Ball. That was last Friday, June 3rd. I want to thank Christian Pasquarino, who was a guest on one of our Lunch and Learns. Christian asked me to address the sold out crowd at the Equality Ball. So again, Christian Pasquarino, Garden State Equality, I want to thank you for your invitation. Thank you for all that you do. I want to give a quick shout out to David Little, the chocolatier, member of the CannaBusiness Association, who provided wonderful chocolate treats for the bags, guest bags. I also wanted to take a moment. Last night, New Jersey Cannabis Insider hosted a wonderful event recognizing a lot of our leaders in the cannabis space, very specific professions. And then there were a couple of folks like myself that were a little bit broader in terms of recognition. I want to thank Bill Caruso, who actually happens to be our corporate counsel at the CannaBusiness Association. Bill received the Lifetime Achievement Award. Bill Caruso has done so much for the cannabis industry, being one of the founding members of NJUMR and being a legislative guru. So thank you, Bill Caruso. I want to thank, again, New Jersey Cannabis Insider and Enrique Levine. Thank you so much for the recognition. For those that hadn't heard, Cannabis Insider recognized me as the Cannabis Ambassador for the year. So I want to thank them once again for the recognition, for the honor. It was again, a lovely event. I want to thank Faye Coleman, who is a member of our board. Faye actually presented me with my award. I also want to thank board member Tara Sargente. Many of you know her as Tara Masu. She was present as well. So thank you all for your support. Now, looking forward, let's take a forward look. Next Wednesday, on June 15th, I'm going to be back in Asbury Park as the CannaBusiness Association will be hosting an in-person networking event. It's going to be at Johnny Mac's House of Spirits on Main Street. So next Wednesday, June 15th, register on the CannaBusiness website. Look forward to seeing you at Johnny Mac's next Wednesday, June 15th. Looking forward to an opportunity. The great thing about the networking event, many of you have heard, I've coined the phrase that we are in fact New Jersey's Cannabis Chamber of Commerce. This is a perfect opportunity for you to come and connect with other professionals that you may need to know in the ancillary spaces in particular to help support not only your application, but to support your eventual operations. So join us next Wednesday. Really appreciate Johnny Mac's House of Spirits for hosting us next Wednesday. So I look forward to seeing you then. So we will be getting to some other additional some additional questions. Jeff, thanks so much for coming back. We really appreciate it. And again, look, what you're doing, taking time out of your personal time. We know this is not your office time. So again, really appreciate it. I think it shows the depth of our relationship and respect that we have for each other. So I really appreciate it. So to jump into, again, the process. So one of the questions another question I should say that we get at the association, the issuance of the cure letters. So should people expect paper copy, paper and email, or is there maybe a way of kind of streamlining that just so that people get they get the cure notification sooner so that they can address it sooner?
So the cures are going out via email, pretty much as soon as they're done. I can tell you that, the way our process works is, we have a template cure letter now at this point. And so, because we're seeing, the same types of things, there's only so many things that can be wrong anyway. And so, our scores are going through, people reviewing the applications, they're noting, exactly what, what's missing, what needs to be fixed. And then those letters go out with those issues, outlined. To my knowledge, I think we get them out via email as quick as we can once they're approved and once they're ready to go. And then once those are received, then the application actually gets rejected in the system. And then people can refill it, make any amendments, and they don't have to start from scratch. They get their application back as it was, and then they can make amendments and resubmit it. And so, a couple things that I want to know is, given the volume of applications we have, it's really important to make sure you have stuff in the right place, clearly labeled, so that it's easy as reviewers are going through, hundreds of applications. It's easy to review your application. We have QC in place to make sure that, we're not bumping anybody who shouldn't be bumped and things of that nature. But I do want to note that if things are clearly labeled, they're in the places they need to be in the application system. It makes the job of reviewing your application that much easier.
Thanks for that, Jeff. Also, and this is somewhat of a question, but more of a comment that I'm somewhat compelled to share. We do deal with a lot of applicants, both current and future, and there are people that have been working very hard at developing their businesses, and people have invested and they've asked for investors to support them. And so one of the concerns that we have as the association and representing people is that people have in fact started leases, and they are paying down on their leases, keeping the properties, and they're concerned when they haven't heard back in that 90-day review period. And so I know you've addressed it, and I appreciate that with respect to the processes and all that you have to do. But again, I guess I just want to make it clear and that please do share with the commission that there are people that, again, they've reached outside for money, they've borrowed from family and friends, people have tapped into their 401ks. And I would be remiss in my role as president of the association if I didn't state publicly, as it were, that we share their concerns when they haven't heard anything and when they're spending thousands of dollars a month trying to hold on to property. And so I just wanted to bring that to light. And again, I would be remiss if I didn't say anything about it. So I just wanted to share that with you, Jeff, and I'll leave it for you to respond if you'd like.
No, thank you for that. And you know, I will say this, you know, one of the things that I've learned certainly in the 4 years that I've been involved in regulating the cannabis industry is that it is a hard business to be in anywhere. You know, I certainly feel for the folks who, you know, have had to cobble together friends and family funding and, you know, their own funding. And I'll just say this, one of the things that sticks with me and just, yeah, I mean, I kind of well up when I think about it, but when we were doing the 2019 RFA, the second submission day, it was cultivation and vertical, and we were like a minute away, you know, like like a minute or two away from the deadline. And, you know, in RFAs, deadlines are hard and fast. If you don't meet that, then there's really no wiggle room. This guy came running around the corner at the old Department of Health building, which is now knocked down. And, you know, we saw him, and I'm outside him, you know, waving him in. And my colleague Sue Carson was there at the time. She's now retired, but you know, and we got him in and we got him signed up, and he handed over this huge box of, you know, a paper, you know, and he said he was sweating, and he said, you know, my kid's future is in that box. And like, you know, I mean, just the weight of that statement and understanding that we had, you know, 200 applicants and that it would be such a competitive, you know, competitive endeavor for anybody, you know, to come out on top in that process. That's something that sticks with me. You know, it's things like that are the reason why, you know, we moved to the system that we have. And I know that because we want to make sure that there's light at the end of that tunnel. If you've done the work, if you have those pieces in place, we want to make sure that that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and you can be assured that, like, if you meet those regulatory requirements, once your application gets reviewed, it will be recommended for licensure. And, you know, I know in this initial rush, there's more waiting than even I would like, as you know, for a lot of these applicants. I wish we could process everybody, you know, in the next 2 weeks and just get everything out the door, but, you know, we have to follow the regs too. And, you know, just know that, as I said in the opening remarks, you know, we do intend to get through the full slate of applications. That's something that we know we need to do, and something that we will do. And once we get through this initial rush, you know, I think things are going to calm down, and we'll get into more of a regular kind of rhythm of reviewing applications and getting approvals out the door.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that. So you just mentioned that the fact that you have to follow the rules, right? You've got regs. So going back a year ago, the CRC adopted the interim rules. Great first meeting, actually, back then, you know, to adopt the rule to create interim rules. And so August is coming up. It'll be the year. And so now we're looking at it's, I guess, kind of based on the timeline created, that the permanent rules will be published. So we're looking forward to that. So can we expect that in August?
Well, we have to do it before August, you know, so the rules expire in August. Now, once we propose new rules, then that clock gets extended for 6 months. To account for, you know, the public comment period and response. But yeah, our rules expire in August. So, you know, we need to propose new permanent rules. Yeah, there's some things that we still need to implement, you know, particularly since we're talking licensing, you know, the 3 additional classes of licenses that weren't in our initial rules: wholesalers, distributors, and delivery services, as well as some other facets, you know, related to the overall law. And then, honestly, we've gone through and there are technical edits and minor changes, even typos in those initial rules, punctuation appearing where it shouldn't. So, I anticipate, something happening with that certainly before August.
Okay. All right. So that, let's say we're fortunate enough to have, again, the permanent, at least the introduction before August. But let's say I'm the applicant, and now I'm a little bit concerned because right now it appears as though there's not a meeting in August. Does that mean that the process stops, or what happens should there not be a meeting in August? And so again, with people paying rent and looking forward, like, is that another 30 days where potentially nothing happens, or what could happen that benefits the industry?
So there's actually more happening at the CRC, in between board meetings than there is at board meetings. And, the work does not stop. And I mentioned that, we have a very solid team on license review now. We're onboarding new people every day, but rest assured, over the summer we're going to put whatever resources we need at at review to make sure we can get through as many applications as we possibly can. So I would say, don't worry too much about, whether there's a meeting or not a meeting in August. The work continues. And, even if there's not a meeting in August, that just means that September's meeting would be that much bigger as far as license applications.
So I could potentially, if I'm an applicant, I could still hear something during that month. Correct. that will help me in my cause. Correct. Yep. Okay. All right. Thank you for that clarification. Looking forward, give us some sense of what we can expect in the next couple of months, and again, just appreciating your time and taking time out of your personal life to be with us today. Can't thank you enough. So give us some sense of where you see things going in the next 2-3 months. Sure. So first off, I wanted to thank you and again the CannaBusiness Association for hosting this. These lunch and learns are great. We always love being a part of it, not only myself, but the other staff members who have participated. I'll say this, one of the before I came into state government, I represented hospitals, and before that I worked for a nonprofit, and I see Carla on, I used to work with Carla when I worked for the New Jersey Healthcare Quality Institute. So, but one of the things, the best pieces of advice I got when I was out in the private sector representing various interest groups was to be a resource to regulators, to be a resource to people in government, legislators. And, I think, Ed, you and your organization, I think that's a real key differentiator for what you do. You are a resource to us. And I bring this up here because one of the things that will be coming relatively soon is testing guidance, third-party testing guidance. So we issued the first 4 testing laboratory license awards at our last meeting. Those 4 labs are all in process. And I wanted to thank your lab testing subcommittee, who had provided just a host of excellent feedback as we developed that guidance, because right now we're still operating under Maryland's guidance and regulations as our interim standards. But once those licenses are issued, we're going to transition to our own regulations, our own guidance. You and your colleagues at CannaBusiness Association have really provided a lot of feedback on that already, and have committed to do so more. So really appreciate it. That's something that's coming. More licenses. That's the big thing. More conditional licenses. And I do anticipate that probably only a subset of people who get conditional licenses will ultimately be able to move on to annual. Just looking at where municipalities stand and the number of slots that are out there, but we want to make sure that people have an opportunity to do that. And then, looking forward, the best thing, 2 best things about getting our permanent regs in place, which we will do before the deadline.
Number one, that means that we can then turn, instead of looking at like kind of wholesale readoption and changes, then we can focus in on various issue areas and, sort of tackle, a subchapter at a time or a couple subchapters and move that forward at a meeting. It will give us the opportunity to sort of breathe a little bit and have more stakeholder engagement as we look at how to improve those rules going forward. It also gives us the opportunity, which I am very excited for, to really turn back to medical and get those rules updated and move forward with a lot of opportunities that are in Jay Koenig's law. So that, and I am confident that New Jersey, even with recreational marijuana, cannabis is going to have the most advanced, the most cutting edge medical market in the entire country. That's my goal. I got into this because of medical cannabis, because of what this can do for patients. Recreational is just, it's awesome to be a part of this as well. But, I want to turn back to medical. I want to make sure that market is vibrant and cutting edge and continues to provide access to patients. I see someone saying, get the independent pharmacies involved. I love that opportunity in the law. I would love for people to be able to go to pharmacies and purchase medical cannabis. So Alan, thank you for that. We will certainly, I know you were part of the group we met with on that issue, and we'll circle back on that for sure, because that's a great opportunity in our law and something that we definitely want to pursue. Looking forward though, this is, I do want to note, the next 5 years are going to be a very interesting time in cannabis, period. And, it goes beyond anything that regulators can do. I try to stay on top of, industry trends and stuff. And, what's happening in hemp now, is fascinating and troubling in some regards. Different novel cannabinoids, when we're talking about, even just cannabis growth, period. There are companies that are, I'll say that this is one of the most fascinating things to me. So, when you go to a garden center, you purchase seeds for tomatoes, you throw them in the ground, you're going to get, say you plant 4 seeds, you're going to get 4 tomato plants that look pretty similar. In cannabis, it's different now in that, when people start new businesses, they have to start from mother, and they plant a bunch, get a bunch of mothers going. They look for the right phenotype from those mothers, and then they clone that. So what is happening is there are some companies out there that are breeding, and not genetically modifying, but breeding seeds, much like we've seen in more traditional agriculture, so that they will be more uniform. And so that, rather than having to go from clone, companies will be able to just plant seeds and get uniform results. So there's a lot of innovation happening across the country, internationally, when it comes to cannabis. I just think that, 5 years down the road, this is the industry is going to be a lot different than it is now. I'm just really, honored and humbled to be a part of this at the point that I am. Thank you for having me today.
Well, Jeff, again, really appreciate it. Everyone, give your virtual round of applause to Jeff Brown, Executive Director of the Cannabis Regulatory Commission. Again, Jeff, can't thank you enough for joining us. Hopefully we can have you again on soon in a couple of months. Some of your other colleagues there at the Regulatory Commission. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. Have a great weekend. Have a safe weekend. Really appreciate everyone's support. Don't forget, if you have questions about your application, by all means, contact the CRC. Get those questions in. Make sure that you're asking your questions. Check your email for your cure notices, right? And then this way, you can handle it as it comes up. So everyone, have a great weekend. Thank you so much, Jeff. Take care. Enjoy your girls, man.
Thank you. Have a great one. And thanks,
All right,
everyone.
take care.